Hi, my name is Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer, and every single Friday I give you a macro technical analysis video. I go over Bitcoin, the S&P, the NASDAQ, gold, silver, and more. Let's break it down right now for you. We're even going to go over altcoins. We're going to look at the DXY. It's awesome. Let's take a look at what's happening for the bigger picture for Bitcoin. Remember, we gone over this every month, and when I was telling you this month had to close green, it didn't. Once that month closed red, we knew the next month was going to be red, and we've had a red June so far after that May nasty close. So it is what it is, man. May was nasty, June followed, and you can see clearly there's a bit of a shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder here on the monthly chart. Now, if we were to take like the measured move here, that says that we would dump somewhere down to $15,000, $16,000 Bitcoin. Is that going to happen for sure? It's on the table. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, but it's a possibility. It's definitely something that we should slightly consider. It could happen, right? I'm not, we're going to take it one step at a time, but that macro right now is telling us there's some ways down. Now, there's a solution. There's somewhat of a bullish scenario here, is that we're going to make this falling wedge. Get very tight. Okay, get very tight in here, up and down. Maybe even spend 1 month going, we close this month red, kind of where we're at. We mill around, we chop for the next 18 days. We bounce back up. We bounce back down, and then we start to break out. It could even make a bit of an inverted head and shoulder here. This could be the left shoulder. This could be a head. We could make a right shoulder and bounce back up here to liquidity. This is the bullish scenario. How do we know what's going to happen first? Well, we're going to get a tweezer bottom on the weekly. Next week, this will close Sunday night, red, green, and if that happens, there's a chance we at least bounce back to the top of the channel. I see this happening. I see us in chop for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Then we break out. But at least a bounce to the top of the channel will keep the bears from pushing us to the downside. So you want to look Sunday night. Really big deal that this weekly candle closes green. All right. I actually front ran this and I threw a trade in right now. It's up a little bit, but I went in here with a stop loss below the wick. Very small idea. If we get somewhere up into here, it's basically like $1,000 for $8,000, right? So if we get back up here to 96, 98,000. So I'm just kind of throwing something in the mix. Every time we get near a 200 moving average, I think it's good. Like right there, if you threw in this trade, threw a trade in right there with the stop loss below, would have turned out to be a huge payday. So I throw them in there every once in a while. I have the wins behind me to take the risk, and I do that. So that's a trade I did take, and it's kind of set up something like this. Let me show you. But the entry would be here. The stop is right below this wick, like no games. And I'm seeing if I can get somewhere up into 100,000, 97,000 into this area. Maybe I even get to ride it higher. You never know. And maybe it could easily get stopped out. If it does, no worries. I'm just taking a shot at that liquidity zone to see what can happen. So the weekly bouncing off the 200, big deal. We need that to close green. That's kind of what we're looking for. So that's what you want to see on the monthly here. And then kind of the daily, in my mind, could be making a bear flag, or this cup and handle. Like if you look at the 22, it's a bit of a cup and a handle, could be breaking out. So we're looking to see if this daily candle can pump. I feel like we got to come back to the 200, at least get a move up to it. If not, daily candle is going to go sideways for probably 4 or 5 more days till the 21 touches, and then that bear flag is going to dump. So in the next 5 days, we're going to likely either pump up to the 200 to the 21 and start some type of bigger reversal, or we're going to fill out the flag and then dump. I see those are the scenarios. So I'm willing to take some longs now on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, see if they can rip. But I know that the bigger time frames could likely pull us down. And then remember, you're looking for that weekly to close above the 200 moving average. And that's your macro for Bitcoin. Then we have the total market cap in all of cryptocurrency. All right. And that has everything in it. And it's basically going to be very similar to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a lot of dominance right now. So this is going to be similar. So let's take a look at this on the weekly. Same scenario, struggling. You want to see this bounce off the 200 moving average, exactly like we talked about for Bitcoin. We want to see it mingle in here. It could shoulder, head. That might make a right shoulder and dump us, okay? And that's that daily making that bear flag. So same exact scenario on total. You want to see if the daily can actually move up or if the daily is going to dump. I'll be honest, total tells us the 21's a little closer than Bitcoin, and it's flattening out. So it's giving us a little more signal that this will bear flag likely somewhere down to $1.63 trillion. And then you look at all the altcoins, which is total 3. That's the entire market cap of all the coins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I believe it's basically a very similar story because a lot of the macro coins are following Bitcoin. The coolest thing about this story is, look, we're not on the 21. We're on the 200 on the weekly. We're actually a little bit above it, which gives us even a little more wiggle room, the fact that we may never go below that 200. Last time the altcoins bottomed was right there. We got really close here. It definitely looks like it's close to an altcoin bottom. And if you take this trend line, I mean, this trend line is pretty tried and true. As long as we hold this trend line and continue, this could moon. And what if altcoins eventually come up, come down, and in the long run, they break out and go parabolic into 2028? I mean, that could happen. I like this area. There's certain coins that look good at DCAing. You want to see this kind of shoulder, make a right shoulder, break out of here. But, you know, we're above the 200 on the weekly, and we're a little stronger than Bitcoin. The altcoins are a little stronger. As you can see, we had some big pumps the last 3 weeks, too. Hyperliquid had a massive move. All right, we had even Ondo caught a couple bids, and even more coins kind of started ripping. We had that lab doing like a 20x. We had Beat Adiera doing basically a 20x, ripping out of control. So we have seen some movement in the altcoins. They've been getting some market share back against Bitcoin. Not all of them, but some premier coins have been doing that. It's good to see, right? Then I like to look at Bitcoin dominance, right? I want to see if Bitcoin dominance is going to slip for these altcoins. To me, shoulder, head, right shoulder kind of looks, you know, bearish. It's in a bit of a symmetrical triangle that could go either way. If Bitcoin decides to slump and fall out of its channel, this is going to drop. Some altcoins are going to hold a little better than that. I think Hyperliquid. But if Bitcoin breaks out and then it retraces, I only see just a pump and then a retrace. I don't know if I see a massive move for Bitcoin dominance. So it does look like we could get some market share for the altcoins as you see Bitcoin dominance slightly slumping a bit. But it also could mean Bitcoin itself is dropping and you're not going to, you know what I mean? So just be careful there. One thing we're watching is Tether dominance. And remember, we saw this on the daily, and the daily looked good. It looked like it was going to continue. And then now we're in a bit of a bull flag here. It looks like some sideways price action. Very similar to what Bitcoin's doing, right? We're going to see if Bitcoin makes, this is Bitcoin's bear flag, right? So if Bitcoin makes the bear flag, so if Bitcoin reverses back up, this is going to dump back down. If Bitcoin rips, if Bitcoin decides to dump, this is going to go make the flag. So in the next 5 days, you're waiting for the 21 to come in here, this get tight, and a rip up on dominance. It's starting to set up that we will have a dump for Bitcoin. That's kind of looking like the most likely scenario on this daily. Today, we'll notice when the daily candle closes red on Bitcoin, you're going to see that we're likely going to head back to the bottom of the range. Like you flip upside down, we're going to come back down, right? This means this will pump up. I don't know. Tether dominance is foreshadowing that we will have a dump for Bitcoin. Now we take a look at the DXY. You know, it only makes sense, right? So I go from Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, and then to the DXY. DXY to me looks like it's struggling. Shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, and it's in a bear flag. That's why gold is strong, stocks are strong, Bitcoin even holding up pretty good because the dollar is losing more and more value. They have to print more money every single month to keep this show going. Don't forget that. The repo market, everything in the back end, they have to continue to print more money. They're not, they don't really talk about it as much as they should. Kevin Warsh is also, more prone to cut rates over time. Maybe not in the first few sessions, but over time. We do have a rate meeting. We have a rate meeting next week on Wednesday. Very likely they're not going to cut the rates. They're going to stay flat. But the DXY, to me, I see it kind of like going down, sideways, and eventually rolling over. Well, it looks like we'll go sideways. The next 5 or 6 days looks like sideways chop till Bitcoin fills out that bear flag and dumps, you see? Or we get a move quicker in this weekend. But if this weekend's flat, it's likely that we're going to get that bear flag sideways for BTC. All right. With that being said, I like to look at gold, and I move into gold now. Gold with a little bit of a rally off the lows, but is it amazing at 4,000? I don't know. I'm not too, looks more like head and shoulder. Looks like a descending triangle that lost the lows, possibly retesting. Losing the daily 200 moving average is bear market. When you're above it, you're in a bull market. When you're below it, you're in a bear. That's the beginning of a possible bear market for gold. It would have to get back above it. You got to look at it on the weekly. And I would pull a Fibonacci here and suggest that, it did hit the 618. You pull the whole thing, though, even from here, I feel like gold's got to come somewhere back to $3,500 an ounce and fulfill, that lower area. When I look at it here, it looks like it's just in this downward channel. I'm saying, oh, no, it's going to reverse huge. If it does, I'd wait for it to consolidate. I see gold going lower. headed somewhere to 36, you know what I mean? Just kind of as it balances off, as Bitcoin goes sideways. But eventually, when the dollar continues to lose value, gold will go up. You know, whether it bounces here or here, I believe in the course of the next 5 to 10 years, gold will be way higher. I'm predicting somewhere by 2028, right? Late 2027, gold does go to $7,000 an ounce. It's just going to take its time. And then I always look at kind of silver with gold there just to kind of, you know, check on it. It's doing the same thing. Look like it may have that bigger rally, but it slumped over. You know, people are getting into new age tech, and it's not like gold and silver don't look that amazing anymore. I have to be honest. Could silver collapse all the way down? I would open it up more like this. I see it kind of going up and down and then eventually breaking out. But I do see it hitting the low, like 54 or 55 on the touch. And that may be the perfect time to buy, where it then rallies back. They're going to print money over time. Gold and silver will go up. I see it 125 an ounce by, it says almost by October of 2026, it may go on a rally. I do see the dollar dropping. You know, that could happen. Silver has a little bit more of an edge compared to the rest of the market because it's just got a smaller price action as a risk on, as a safety asset. And now, last but not least, I like to look at the S&P futures and see what's happening there. I recently just called a bounce on the S&P when everyone was extremely bearish. I was looking for this to break out. It did. Now look at the 1 hour. It's kind of inside of this like broadening wedge here that can break out. I see this breaking out. I see the S&P headed at least in the interim to this 763 area back to the all-time high and then consolidating. It may be a smaller consolidation. It may do something like this, but I see it consolidating over time and then eventually breaking out. They're going to print that money to zero. The dollar's going to keep going, and things that make value, produce, stock markets, companies, their value only goes up over time. So I see that happening in the NASDAQ and the S&P. As we move into the NASDAQ, same exact story. I'm watching this flag break out. Once we cross the 200 there, that's going to rip again back to the top of the channel. Nice bounce out the falling wedge. There was an inverted head and shoulder here. I did call this bounce. Everyone else said it was bearish. We may make a right shoulder and dump, so I'm open-minded to this. So I want to see us hit the top of the channel. We hit the top of the channel, that's no right shoulder. And then again, I see the same thing for the NASDAQ as the S&P. I see just consolidation here, tight consolidation, before we break out to a bigger move to the upside. Last but not least, I look at oil as it's been getting pushed and pulled around all the time with the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said he was about to blast. Then he says no. Now we're really close. They said negotiations are coming this weekend. They're going to pen it in there. No more. It's over. And honestly, that we can end this insanity with gold, with oil. When I look at oil, there's a bit of a descending triangle there. It kind of has like head and shoulder vibes. I do see it bouncing back down to the daily 200 moving average, finding some support right there. There's a high volume node at 74, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I see oil. There's its high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower low. I expect a lower high and a lower low. I see us going back down somewhere to 75 for oil. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. That's your top-down analysis for the major assets that really run the world. We're talking Bitcoin, gold, silver, the S&P, the NASDAQ, oil, and more. If you like this type of analysis, you like the positive energy and the information I bring, I do this TA every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. That's New York City time. And Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I also have a Discord. If you go to cryptolifer.com, you can find out more about all the different services and things that I offer and products that I have for you. So check it out. Go to cryptolifer.com, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can find out when I post my next video. Remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto is life.